No, sit down. Sit. So if you remember on Friday, we were talking about circles and the equation of a circle. And we started with the basic equation. And we said, just like an equation for a line, a y equals mx plus b, this equation has numbers in there that mean something about the circle. We said this h and k, the opposite of those values is the center of the circle. And then over here, the radius squared. So they would give you an equation that looks like this, one of the things you had to do, and you had to tell what was the center and the radius. Well, if you look at this, you could easily tell, I think, what's the center? 3, 5, positive. It's got to be the opposite of what's in here. So the center is 3, 5, and the radius, well, over here is the r squared. So if r squared is 16, you need to take square root, and the radius is 4. Did you have to worry about the negative square root? No, right? Why not? Because the radius can't be negative. The radius of the circle can't be negative. So that was fairly easy, wouldn't you agree? Getting the center and the radius when the equation looks like this? Easy? Well, today, you're going to do the same thing. Give me the center and the radius. Give me the center and the radius. Give me the center and the radius of that. Well, guess what? You can't when it looks like that. So we're going to have to rearrange that and get it to look like this. The x stuff all squared plus the y stuff all squared equals the radius squared. So our job today is mostly going to be to get that to look like this. How do you do that? Well, you're going to start with the x stuff. Write the x terms together. X squared plus 10x. And then you're going to do the same with the y terms. The y squared minus 4y. And this number term right here, you're going to get rid of it. Put it on the other side. And so what we're going to do, we have to get this stuff right here to look like x minus 3 squared. And the way we do that, complete the square. Do you remember completing the square? What's half of 10? 5. 5 squared? 25. So you're going to add 25 to both sides. Remember, you take half of this and square it. Half of 10 is 5. 5 squared, 25. Once you do that now, you should be able to factor this. You should be able to factor it. And not only should you factor it, but you should be able to factor it into two quantities that look the same. Oh, yes, sorry, thank you. So that you can write it as x plus 5 all squared. X plus 5 all squared, now it looks like this. Yes. And then guess what we're going to do with the y stuff? Same thing. So you're gonna complete this square. What's half of 4? 2 squared. So we're gonna add 4. Don't forget to add it to both sides. When we did completing the square back a couple chapters ago, that was a common mistake. You would remember to do it over here. Everybody did it right on this side, but some people over here, you forgot to add it. Once you have it there, now you can factor. What does that factor into? Y minus 2, y minus 2, which is y minus 2 all squared. What's 25 and 4? 29. Take away 21?
8.
Equals 8. Now look at that.
That looks beautiful.
Thank you, that looks beautiful. And now, can't you easily tell what the center and the radius are?
100%.
What's the center?
-5.
-5, 2. And the radius, what's the radius? Well, this is r squared, so square root of 8, which, if you simplify, that's 4 times 2, so 2 roots of 2. So we're doing sort of what we did on Friday, but before you do that, you have to just rearrange it by completing the square. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Do you have any questions so far?
I guess not.
She guesses not. Anybody with questions? Oh, let's do one more just for fun.
Absolutely.
How exciting. Plus 6y plus 30. So first step,
Get a 30 out of there.
get the 30 over, and, get the x stuff together. Here I've got x squared minus 8x, and then leave a space. And then I've got a y squared plus 6y. And then we're going to minus 30. Right? And then we're just going to complete the square. So, right here, what's half of 8?
4.
4 squared.
16.
Where do you add it? Very good, both sides. And so now you should be able to factor that, right? What does it factor into?
4.
X minus 4, x minus 4.
Yes.
So I think that would be about x minus 4 squared.
Absolutely.
Now we have to do the same thing with the y's. Same thing with the y's. Half.
3.
Square it.
9.
So we're going to add 9 where?
Both sides.
Oh, very good, very good. And once we do that, now we should be able to factor it again. What does that factor into? Y?
3 and 3.
3 and 3. So that would be, and remember, when you factor these, they should always be the same. That's what completing the square is. So y plus 3 all squared equals -5.
Yeah.
So there's our equation. What would the center be?
4 -3.
Center is 4, -3. What's the radius?
Just 5.
Square root of
Oh
5.
wait, it's square root of 5. Is it I5? I squared 5?
Remember, think about this for a minute. Center to the outside is the radius.
Yeah.
What did we say over here when I asked you, do we have to take the positive and the negative?
No,
It'd be negative.
You said no, because you can't have a negative radius. You said no, because you can't have a negative radius. So if that happens, you don't really need to give the center. This thing is not a circle.
For real, for real?
Yeah. If you end up with something over here that's not a positive number, it's not a circle. The radius has to be positive. So, and by the way, you start off, it's not just if you start off with something negative. I know that some of you are going to try to find a shortcut, and I'm not going to do all that work if it's not a circle to begin with. But remember, this one over here also started out negative. But when we added to it, it ended up positive. So unfortunately, there's no way to know ahead of time until you complete the square twice. There's no way for you to know until you add everything whether or not you're going to have a positive value there. So yes, you have to do the work. You have to complete the square twice and then add it up and see if it's positive or negative. If it's negative, it's not going to be a circle. Also, there are some that look like this. There are some that look like this.
What does that?
What does that mean?
Is it just like a point?
If this, you still have a center, 4, 3, or negative 3, I should say. But what's the radius?
0.
0. Is it possible to have a circle with radius 0?
I wouldn't think so.
Again, if you end up with radius 0, this thing is not a circle. What is it, Darius?
A point.
Yeah, it's just a point. It's not a circle.
A dot C.
So that's all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
What's the assignment?
Are there any questions? I believe it's this. I think it's on page 410. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it does.
And I have WE 15 to 48.
That's weird.
Doesn't they really racking up the numbers?
I know, right? Must be all those in-class assignments.
Yeah.